I'm Cleo Rivers, 29, professional third wheel. If you've ever cried into a bouquet or danced in heels until your toes screamed, there's a good chance I've filmed it. I'm a freelance wedding videographer based in Nashville, which means my car smells like eucalyptus and hot lens caps, and my calendar lives and dies by weekends. Saturday nights are my stage. Sunday mornings are for backups and black coffee. And Mondays, well, this Monday started with something that tasted like metal in my mouth. It was early June, the kind of Tennessee morning where the air feels like warm breath. Cicadas were just tuning up. I'd cracked the window to hear them while I scrubbed through footage from a barn wedding in Franklin sunset, light like honey. A bride who wore pearl cowboy boots, a groom who cried so hard his best man passed him tissues like penalties. I loved that wedding. I loved the micro wobble of the bride's lip right before she whispered, "I do." I loved the way her grandmother patted the groom's hand during the vows. I loved how my Steadicam floated through the aisle like it was made for that exact slant of light. So, when my phone lit up with a text from a future bride, "Hey Cleo, did you change your style?" I thought it was a compliment. Then she sent a link. A reel. 27 seconds long. I hit play. At first, I didn't understand what I was seeing. There was my shot. A close-up over the bride's shoulder, lace pattern sharp, groom a smear of bokeh tears. Then, a whip pan to hands slipping rings, the exact tiny flare from my anamorphic lens kissing the frame. Then my drone shot my drone rising over the rust-red roof of the barn into a sky the color of bruised plum. But the music wasn't mine. The logo definitely wasn't mine. Wild Magnolia Media, the title card read, in a font that tried too hard. My heart did something complicated. Skipped, sputtered, caught. I rewound, paused, zoomed in. There, in the bottom corner, barely a whisper, was my watermark. It was faint, subtle, because I always planned to replace it in final delivery, but you could see it if you knew where to look. On the next shot, it was crudely masked under a dust effect. The reel had more. My hand held of the father-daughter first look. My gimbal slide across the page boy's freckled grin. My slow pull focus on the vows, the exact beat where the officiant's voice cracked. My work, chopped and dressed in someone else's clothes. The taste in my mouth turned to iron. I scrolled down. The caption read, "Another magical Tennessee love story. Book us for 2026 limited dates left." And the comments, God, the comments were an avalanche. "This is gorgeous. Your style is unreal. I just booked them. Can't wait." I stared until the words doubled. Then I did the thing you never do when your heart is sprinting. I clicked the profile. Wild Magnolia Media's grid was a parade of stolen moments. My moments. A vineyard wedding in Arrington, my slider shot under the arbor. A rainy elopement downtown, my wide shot of the couple kissing in headlights. A backyard ceremony with string lights, my bouquet, my grain, my fingerprints all over it. The DMs started arriving while I scrolled. A bride from last month. Cleo. Did you collab with Wild Magnolia? They're using your shots. Another message from a planner I adore. I think someone's ripping you. I swallowed and stared at my reflection in the black mirror of my monitor. Frizzy hair in a messy knot. A coffee stain on the collar of my faded "Women with a Camera" tee. My face looked calm in the glass, but my hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped the mouse. I called my best friend Jessa, who is a florist and chaos fairy, and who answers the phone like every call is a dare. "What happened?" she said, before I even spoke. "Your text had no punctuation. That's your crime voice." "Check your Instagram," I said. "A beat. Another. You've got to be kidding me," she whispered. Isn't that your barn wedding?" "Every shot," I said. "The drone?" "Yep." "The ring slip thing you practiced for 3 days?" "Yep." Silence expanded between us. I could hear scissors snipping through ribbon on her end, imagined rose petals shivering onto her work table. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I looked at my hard drives, stacked like bricks on my desk. A year's worth of love stories humming quietly, waiting for finals, waiting for approval. I looked at the emails I hadn't answered yet. I thought about rent. The insurance payment that hit next week. the deposit on the new Sony body I'd been saving for. And then I thought about the girl in pearl boots, and the way she'd cried when I sent her sneak peeks. My stomach is trying to climb out my throat, I said. That's what I'm doing. You need to call them, Jessa said. You need to scream into a jar, then call them. I laughed, but it sounded like paper tearing. I did not call them, not yet. First, I dug. The faces behind Wild Magnolia Media were a couple I'd seen at weddings before. Surface level sweet, cloud of curated charm. I remembered the lead editor, a guy named Dax, because he wore rings that clinked against his camera and bragged about turning around edits in 48 hours while I waited for golden hour, like a pilgrim at the altar of light. I remembered he'd asked me what LUTs I used. I'd smiled and changed the subject. I also remembered the assistant, a girl with glitter on her eyelids who'd hovered near my rig during cocktail hour. My mind replayed 100 tiny things I'd ignored. The way Dax lingered behind my shoulder, like a shadow with opinions. The assistant's compliment about my sweet external SSD case while my bag was open. The way their social following had exploded lately, a wildfire of hearts and bookings. On their website, I found a press page with a bullet list of achievements and a prominently placed "as seen in" badge. One of the features was a blog post by a wedding directory that showcased their signature style. The thumbnail was my vineyard shot. Heat rose up my neck. I took a breath that didn't reach the bottom of my lungs, opened my email, and typed. Subject: takedown required. Stolen footage. I attached screenshots. I attached links. I attached a close-up of my faint watermark, circled in red, proof against gaslighting. Before I hit send, I opened my calendar. 2 of my 2026 inquiries had little gray labels beside them now, declined. I clicked through. The brides had written apologies that wrapped around the same theme. We loved your work so much but found someone with a similar style that could do it cheaper. I didn't cry. I went very still, the way I do when I'm balancing on a ladder with a camera in one hand and a bouquet in the other. The thing about being a freelancer is that nobody protects you. No HR, no safety net, no roaring parent company thundering into battle if your work gets cannibalized. Just you, your name, and your receipts. I opened my folders. I pulled up the raw files from the barn wedding. I looked at the metadata timecodes, camera IDs, date stamps, all the invisible proof that lives in the bones of an image. I remembered the bride's mother had asked for just one unedited clip of the vows because she wanted to send it to a grandma who couldn't make it. I remembered I'd shot 3 cameras and a drone and a GoPro duct taped to a peach crate for that one amazing low angle of the sparkler exit. Receipts, receipts, receipts. I hit send on the email to Wild Magnolia. Then I drafted takedown notices for Instagram, TikTok, and the wedding directory. I attached evidence like thumbtacks through butterflies. And then I did something impulsive. Something I never do. I opened Instagram stories, hit record, and set the camera to front facing. Hey, I said, voice steadier than I felt. I'm Cleo. I film weddings for a living. This morning I found my footage on someone else's account, credited to them. I'm not posting to drag anyone. I'm posting because it sucks to have your work stolen. If you've ever worked with me, if you know my shots, you might recognize some things. I flipped the camera. I played their reel in frame within frame, then I cut to mine, same moments. My watermark, faint, but breathing. I kept it short, 30 seconds. The world doesn't owe you attention, and it really doesn't owe you nuance. I posted it, thumb trembling. My inbox exploded. Photographers, DJs, planners, brides, grooms, a caterer who'd once rescued my mic from a puddle. My people. The story began to run on rails I couldn't see. Jessa called again. You good? No, I said, and laughed, high and cracked. But I'm angry, which is like caffeine with teeth. A new email popped up, sender, dax@wildmagnoliamedia.com. Subject, let's talk. I stared at it like it was a snake. My cursor hovered. I clicked. Cleo, it read. Saw your story. Think there's a misunderstanding. Our editor used some stock footage we purchased from an online library that must be similar to yours. We'll look into it. Stock footage. I actually cackled. Because stock footage does not include a groom whispering, "My God, I love you," in a Nashville accent, on a date I could prove I was standing there in the room. It does not include a father squeezing his daughter's hand in the exact way my lens recorded. It does not include a drone shot where the barn's weather vane has my reflection in it for one frame because I wasn't careful enough with my angle. I drafted a reply, deleted it, drafted again. Meanwhile, my stories were racking up views like an odometer spinning. Someone DM'd me a screen recording. Wild Magnolia had quietly archived 3 posts. Another message arrived, this time from the bride in pearl boots. "Cleo," she wrote. "I just saw your story. That's my wedding. Call me?" I did. She answered with the kind of fury only a southern woman can pack into a whisper. "They used my face," she said, "on their page. After you were so amazing to us, what do you need from me?" "Can I post a testimonial?" I asked. "About your day? With timestamps? I want to do this right. No mudslinging, just facts." "Do it," she said, "and I'll do one better. I'll send a video right now." I sank back in my chair, pulse finally easing, and felt something like clarity slot into place. I wasn't going to fight dirty. I was going to fight with receipts. Time codes. Raw clips. Bride testimonials. If my name was all I had, then my name was going to be loud. I opened a new project timeline. I dragged my raw files in. I started cutting a different kind of reel, one that stitched together the truth. I was so deep in it, time codes burned into the corner of the frame, overlays labeling camera angles, a clean caption ready to explain exactly what viewers were seeing, that I didn't hear the doorbell until the second ring. I froze, because nobody comes to my house unannounced. I checked the time, 6:22 p.m. The second ring was longer, impatient. Then a quiet knock. I padded to the door in bare feet, heart tripping, phone in my hand like a talisman. Through the peephole, all I saw was a bouquet of white peonies and a flash of a ringed hand holding the stems. "Cleo?" A voice called, smooth as lacquer. "It's Dax. Thought we should talk. In person." My grip tightened on the doorknob. Behind me, my laptop chimed. A new message, a new mention, the internet waking up. In front of me, the enemy smiled into the peephole with flowers, like an apology. I unlocked the deadbolt. And paused, because some doors, once they open, never close the same way again. When I opened the door, the smell hit me. First peonies and regret. Dax stood on my porch like a scene from a rom-com that had been edited wrong. Crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled, camera bag slung over one shoulder like a prop. He held the bouquet out, as if flowers could plug the hole he'd carved in my week. "Hey, Cleo," he said, smiling too easily. "Can we talk?" I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway. "You drove to my house." "Yeah," he said, like that was normal. Wanted to clear the air before things got blown out of proportion. I glanced at the bouquet. Peonies were my favorite. He'd either stalked my feed or guessed right. Either way, it felt invasive. "What proportion are we talking about?" I asked, voice steady. "Because right now, it's at the 'you stole my footage and lied about it' proportion." He exhaled a performative sigh, the kind meant to look reasonable. "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think." Behind me, my laptop chimed again. Notifications were stacking like snow. He tried to peek past me into the apartment. "Can I come in?" I shook my head. "Nope." He hesitated, lowering the flowers. "Look, Cleo, I respect you. Always have. You've got a clean eye, great instincts. But sometimes there's overlap in this business. Same venues, same light, same exact shots?" I cut in. "Same angles? Same camera shake because my gimbal jammed during the ceremony?" That flicker of guilt crossed his face quick, almost invisible. But I caught it. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "My editor pulled references for our reel. Must have grabbed the wrong folder. I'll handle it." "By handle it, you mean delete the evidence and gaslight me later?" His jaw tightened. "You've made this into a witch hunt, Cleo. the posts, the stories. It's bad for both of us. I stepped forward, closing the distance between us until we were eye level. It's bad for you. For me, it's Tuesday, and I'm finally standing up for myself. He chuckled, low and condescending. You think this is going to make you look like a hero? I don't care how it makes me look, I said. I care that my work matters. The sound of my voice startled even me sharp, decisive, not the tired freelancer I'd been 48 hours ago. He sighed again, stepping back. Fine, have it your way. But maybe think before you post anything else. The wedding industry's small, Cleo. People talk. I smiled, thin and practiced. Then I'll give them something worth talking about. He placed the flowers on my doormat, shrugged like he'd done me a favor, and walked away. The peonies stayed there, wilting in the June heat. Inside, my apartment hummed with tension. The screen glowed DMs from strangers, shares piling up, people tagging me in support local creatives posts. My little 30-second story had cracked open something big, and messy, and public. I opened a message from the bride, the one with the pearl boots. Bride. Just posted my testimonial. Hope it helps. Also, people are asking if they can send you theirs too. I exhaled slowly. Yeah, I typed back. Tell them to send everything. By midnight, my inbox looked like a war chest. Raw testimonials, screenshots, even another videographer sent side-by-side comparisons. Wild Magnolia had lifted clips from his work too. Patterns emerged like constellations. Same crop ratios, same LUTs, same transitions, even the same audio from vows I knew by heart. This wasn't one accident. It was a system. I brewed another coffee, opened Premiere, and started building my next post longer this time. Structured like a story, timestamp overlays, split-screen comparisons, sunches, split-screen comparisons, bride testimonials confirming my footage, metadata showing creation dates. Every frame was evidence, not vengeance. The goal wasn't to destroy them. The goal was to make lying impossible. But I'd be lying if I said, revenge didn't feel electric under my skin. The next morning, the video went live. When they steal your footage, the raw proof. I added a calm caption. This isn't drama. This is documentation. Within 2 hours, it hit 200K views. Comments poured in. As a photographer, this makes my blood boil. You handled this so professionally. Tag every creative you know, this happens too often. I scrolled until I hit the one that froze my breath. At Wild Magnolia Media, we've been advised not to comment while this is being resolved legally. Legally, so they were going to play that card. I stared at the comment for a long time, then smiled. Okay, I said out loud, then let's make it legal. By the end of the week, a lawyer friend of Jess's, Harper, who specialized in IP law and had a personality like quiet thunder, called me. I saw your story, she said. You've got an open and shut case, Cleo. Do you want to pursue it, or just make them take it down? I hesitated. The thought of courtrooms and fees and months of paperwork made my chest tighten. But then I remembered Dax's smirk on my porch. The flowers, the warning. Let's make it official, I said. Good, she replied, because I've already drafted the cease and desist. The next few days were chaos. My video kept climbing 1 million views, then 2. Industry blogs picked it up. Nashville videographer exposes rival for theft. Suddenly, I wasn't just Cleo Rivers, wedding filmmaker. I was Cleo Rivers. Cautionary tale and folk hero rolled into one. Brands reached out. Followers doubled. My booking calendar filled so fast I had to start saying no. And then, the twist. A DM from a username I didn't recognize. At Glittered Frames. Hi Cleo. I used to work for Wild Magnolia. I think you should see this. Attached. Screenshots of internal messages. One from Dax himself. Pull good shots from her Vimeo uploads. Clean watermark in post. No one will notice. She's small time. My stomach dropped. Attached next was a Google Drive folder name, Borrowed Assets, CR. I scrolled through the file list. File names matched my projects exactly. There it was proof beyond question. I sent it to Harper with shaking hands. She replied almost instantly. This changes everything. That night, as rain tapped my window, I sat in the glow of my monitor, watching the views climb, messages flood, my name everywhere. Justice was rolling forward. But so was something else, something colder. Because the more people praised me, the louder the little voice inside whispered, "What now, Cleo? When the fire dies down, who are you without the fight?" I stared at my editing timeline, a dozen half-finished wedding cuts waiting for love stories that weren't mine. The fight had started as survival. Now, it was starting to feel like addiction. My phone buzzed an unknown number. I answered, expecting Harper. Instead, a woman's voice, low and nervous. "Cleo? My name's Avery. I think they stole my footage too. But I used to date Dax. You might want to hear what I know." Her tone made my pulse quicken. "What kind of what I know?" I asked. A pause. "The kind that doesn't just ruin a business," she said. "The kind that ruins a person." I leaned forward, rain echoing through the room. "Tell me everything." Avery's voice had that quiver people get when they've been holding a secret too long. She said she used to shoot with Dax, started as his assistant, then his girlfriend, then collateral damage. We met the next afternoon at a cafe downtown, a little indie spot that smelled like espresso and burnt sugar. She showed up early, sitting near the window in a denim jacket too big for her, and dark circles that looked older than her. When I slid into the seat across from her, she didn't say hi, she just pushed her phone across the table. "Start there," she said. On her screen was a series of screenshots, Slack messages, Dropbox notifications, folder names that read like evidence logs. "Cleo, barn footage, raw," I read aloud. He literally named it that. Avery smirked, bitter and small. Dax thought changing metadata was enough. He'd brag about it, say no one in the industry would ever risk snitching. I scrolled through. There were even videos, screen recordings of his editing process, his cursor dragging my footage into his project timeline, my watermark being patched over with fake film grain. My stomach twisted. It was like watching someone forge your handwriting. "How long did this go on?" I asked. "Months," she said. He'd rip bits from smaller videographers' reels, especially women, said they were too emotional in their work to notice details. I clenched my jaw. "So, he's been doing this before me." "Way before," she said, "but you were the first to fight back." Avery's hands trembled as she sipped her coffee. "I left him when I realized he was using my footage too. He threatened to ruin my career. Told me if I ever talked, he'd make sure no one hired me again." I studied her face. Fear lived there, but so did relief. "You did the right thing," I said softly. She laughed once, dry. "Took me a year to believe that." Back in my car, I sat with my phone buzzing in my hand. My brain was already in edit mode, assembling a new timeline, the ultimate cut. Dax's theft, his confession by proxy, his pattern of targeting small creators, but something held me back. The more public this became, the more it would burn. Not just him. Everyone tied to him, editors, assistants, maybe even innocent clients. And me? I'd be known not for my films, but for my feud. I wasn't sure I wanted that to be my story. That night, I met with Harper at her office. She was the kind of lawyer who wore sneakers with her suits and spoke in measured syllables that made you feel safe. When I told her about Avery, she didn't blink. "We can subpoena those files," she said. "This is enough to move past cease and desist territory. We're looking at damages now. Defamation, copyright infringement, emotional distress." "Damages," I repeated, the word tasting metallic. She leaned forward. "Cleo, you have something rare, truth and proof, but you need to decide what you actually want, vengeance or validation." I stared at the table. "Can I have both?" She smiled faintly. "You can try, but one always costs the other." At 2 a.m., I was back in my apartment, pacing the narrow strip between my desk and the window. My video had hit 4 million views. People were making TikToks about it now, reenacting my story, tagging me in creative justice edits. I was trending under number Cleo Cut. The fame felt disorienting. I should have been thrilled, but instead, I felt hollow, like the algorithm had swallowed something sacred and spit it back out for entertainment. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Dax, you think this ends well for you? I froze. Another message followed. Dax, you don't know who you're messing with. Take your videos down, or I start posting everything I've got. Everything I've got. I felt my heart slam against my ribs. Then came one more text, a photo attachment. It was me. From a wedding gig months ago. Behind the camera, unaware. My reflection caught in a window pane. Taken by someone else's lens. He'd been keeping tabs on me. The next morning, I showed Harper the messages. She frowned. That's intimidation. We'll add it to the claim. But Cleo, what? You need to be careful. Don't meet him again. Don't respond. He's cornered, and cornered people do stupid things. I nodded, though my throat felt tight. Then she added, if he's threatening exposure, it's probably bluff. Narcissists like him need control, not chaos. But that night, chaos came anyway. Around 11 p.m., while I was editing, my phone exploded with notifications. My account had been tagged in a dozen new posts. My followers were DMing screenshots. Wild Magnolia had just uploaded a response video. I clicked play. There was Dax, sitting in a studio setup, fake sincerity dripping from every frame. Hey everyone, he began. I want to address the false accusations being spread by a former colleague, Cleo Rivers. We at Wild Magnolia Media pride ourselves on originality. Any similarities are purely coincidental, and, he paused, then smirked slightly. It's sad when jealousy makes people lash out. I felt my pulse in my teeth. But the real gut punch came next. He played a short clip, an old behind-the-scenes moment from one of my weddings, when I'd tripped over a cable and cursed on camera. He used it as evidence of my unprofessionalism. The comment section was already chaos. Half support, half doubt. Wow. She seemed nice, but this makes her look bitter. Typical drama, who knows what's real? Go Cleo, we see through his lies. My heart pounded. 1 minute, I was a symbol of justice. The next, I was a headline-feeding frenzy. I sat there, surrounded by screens glowing with versions of me I didn't recognize. Then my phone rang. Jessa. Don't look at the comments, she said immediately. Just don't. I already did, I whispered. Then listen to me, we fight facts with facts. You've got Avery, you've got proof. We drop it all tomorrow. I nodded, but part of me hesitated. Once I released those files, there'd be no going back, no retraction, no mercy. The truth would burn everything in its path. And I wasn't sure if I was ready to watch it burn me too. Still, when I looked at Dax's smug face frozen on my screen, the decision made itself. I opened my laptop, imported Avery's folder, began cutting the final video. Title: The Lie That Filmed Itself. My cursor hovered over the render button, and just as I clicked it, my screen went black. Every file, every drive, gone. The sound that came out of me wasn't human. More like a wounded animal. The screen went dark, no warning, no freeze, just black. Then a faint click, and my hard drive's little blue light died. I tried to reboot. Nothing. Unplug, replug, nothing. Then, the message. Boot disk not found. My stomach flipped. I opened my drawer, yanked out the second backup drive, plugged it in. Same result. Both drives, my life's work, every wedding, every project, every receipt, were dead. Come on, I whispered, hammering keys like CPR. No response. Then, a single pop-up blinked on screen for half a second before vanishing again. Encryption key verified. Transfer complete. My skin went cold. Transfer to where? I didn't sleep. I stayed up till dawn, tearing through cables, drives, anything that might explain how two separate hard drives could both die in the same second. By 6 a.m., I had a theory and a knot in my throat big enough to choke on. Someone had remote accessed my system, and I knew exactly who. At 8:30, I was in Harper's office, shaking, holding the dead drives like corpses. She listened silently as I explained. her pen tapping against her legal pad in that slow, deadly rhythm that lawyers get when they're trying not to curse. You're sure these were backed up separately? Different days, different passwords. One wasn't even connected to Wi-Fi. She exhaled, long and low. A Trojan? Malware, she said. Hidden in a file you opened recently. I blinked. Like an email attachment? She nodded. Or a DM, and that's when it hit me. A week ago, Dax had sent me a screenshot, supposedly of an apology statement draft. I'd opened it out of morbid curiosity. It hadn't looked like an image file. It was a weird format, but my computer had displayed it fine. I felt sick. He hacked me. Harper's voice dropped an octave. Then he just turned this civil case into a criminal one. By noon, we'd filed a report with the Nashville Cybercrime Unit. The detective, a woman named Ruiz, with sharp eyes and caffeine for blood, asked if I'd noticed any other strange behavior on my system. Just slower renders, random logouts. I thought it was Premiere. Being Premiere. She smiled grimly. It's always Premiere until it's not. They took my drives for analysis, promising updates. But walking out of that police station, I felt hollow, like someone had reached into my chest and yanked out the last bit of control I had. I wasn't just fighting for my name anymore. Now, I was fighting for my work. Jessa met me at her flower shop that evening with a cinnamon latte and a hug so tight it reset my spine. You're not alone, she said. He's just loud and scared. I smiled weakly. He's also smarter than I thought. She leaned back on the counter. Nah, just dirtier. There's a difference. We sat there among the scent of roses and eucalyptus, both staring at nothing. Then she said, You still have the bride's raw clips, right? They downloaded their videos, yeah? My eyes widened. Some of them. Yeah, some keep their USB copies. Then there's your backup, she said, grinning. You just have to ask. That night, I posted one simple story. Hey, to all my past clients, if you have your raw footage or final files from your weddings, please back them up. Might need your help soon. The DMs started rolling in within minutes. Brides offering to re-upload everything. Grooms asking if I needed character statements. A planner sent me a Dropbox link with entire gig folders I'd sent her years ago. The community was rebuilding me, brick by digital brick. But then came one message that stopped my heart cold. It was from at Glittered Frames Avery. Cleo, don't freak out, but I think Dax knows I talked to you. My pulse spiked. What happened? I typed. He showed up at my place tonight. He didn't say anything, just left a USB drive on my doorstep. Label says, For Cleo. I didn't touch it. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Don't, I typed. Whatever it is, don't plug it in. Then, already handed it to a friend who works in IT, she replied. They're checking it safely. I'll call when I know what's on it. The next 24 hours crawled. I tried editing on borrowed equipment, but every file felt fragile, like it could vanish again. Every ping of my phone made my stomach jump. Finally, Avery called. It wasn't malware, she said, voice shaking. You need to see what's on it. What is it? It's not just your footage, Cleo. It's everyone's. Every creator he's ever stolen from. I could hear her breathing fast. There are hundreds of folders. Some labeled with initials, some with full names. There's even a folder called Wild Magnolia Originals, but they're all stolen clips. My breath hitched. You're sure? I'm staring at it. And Cleo. There's one more folder. She paused. It's called insurance. Insurance? Yeah, and it's filled with screen recordings, private DMs, photos, stuff that looks like blackmail. Blackmail of who? She swallowed audibly. Other vendors, brides, even planners. I think he's been collecting dirt to keep people quiet. My hands went numb, Avery whispered. I sent everything to your lawyer. But Cleo, you might want to go somewhere safe tonight. I turned to my window and froze. Across the street, parked under the sodium light, was a dark SUV I didn't recognize. Inside, someone sat perfectly still, watching. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. You really should have stopped when you had the chance. Then a photo followed. Me, standing by the window, taken seconds ago. I dropped my phone, breath catching in my throat. The SUV's headlights flicked on. Engine revved. Then, slowly, too slowly, it rolled forward and disappeared around the corner. I locked every door, grabbed my camera bag, and called Jessa. I need a place to crash. You're at mine tonight, she said without hesitation. Bring your drives, all of them. And Cleo? Yeah? Don't post anything until we know who else is in this. Because maybe it wasn't just Dax anymore. Maybe Wild Magnolia's roots ran deeper than either of us thought. I didn't sleep that night. Jessa's guest room smelled like lavender and dust, usually comforting. But not when your world is on fire. Every time headlights passed outside, my pulse jumped. Every creak in the floorboard sounded like footsteps. At 3 a.m., Jessa knocked softly on the door. Still up? I nodded, eyes on my laptop, trying to remember what it feels like to edit without paranoia. She came in, 2 mugs in hand. Chamomile, don't argue. I took a sip. They can't scare you forever, she said. They can only make noise until you answer back louder. I smiled weakly. You make it sound easy, she smirked. Nothing about flowers or revenge is easy. Trust me, both wilt if you rush them. The next morning, Harper called. Her tone was sharp, efficient. Cleo, I got the USB from Avery. You need to come in. I was at her office in 20 minutes. She slid a flash drive across the table. It's worse than we thought. The files inside the insurance folder weren't just blackmail, they were leverage. Videos of brides having meltdowns during fittings, screenshots of planners venting about clients, private vendor group chats taken out of context. And at the top, a folder labeled Rivers. Inside were pictures of me on wedding shoots, my website's analytics data, a spreadsheet tracking my bookings, prices, even which clients had left 5-star reviews. He was studying you, Harper said, building a profile to undermine your credibility if you pushed back. I sat there, stunned. Why me? Because you're competition, she said simply, and because you were too good for him to ignore. By noon, Harper had looped in Detective Ruiz. They were coordinating a joint complaint. Copyright theft, harassment, and digital intrusion. But what Ruiz said next changed everything. We ran Wild Magnolia's business filings, she said. Guess what? Dax isn't the legal owner. I blinked. What? She handed me a printed document. The name listed as owner divided by director, Lydia Magnus. Who's that? I asked. Ruiz looked at Harper, then back at me. According to tax records? Dax's sister. She funds everything, and she's listed as the one who signs their client contracts. Meaning? Meaning, if you sue, Harper said, you won't just hit Dax. You'll hit her company. The real money. My breath caught. This wasn't a rogue editor stealing clips. It was a whole machine. That night, I went live. Not a flashy viral post this time, just me, sitting on Jessa's couch, eyes tired but voice steady. Hey everyone! I wanted to give an update, I said to the camera. This isn't just about stolen footage anymore. It's about a system that silences small creators. And I'm done being quiet. I explained, simply and clearly, that the investigation was official. That files had been turned over to law enforcement. That more evidence had surfaced. No names, no dramatics, just facts. Then I ended with, if you've ever had your work stolen, this fight is for you too. I logged off. Within hours, number Cleo Rivers trended again, this time paired with number credit the creator. By morning, my inbox overflowed. Other videographers, women, mostly sharing their own stories. One had her footage used in a venue's promo without credit. Another had a second shooter upload her clips under his name. It was like lighting a match in a dark room and realizing how many others were standing beside me. The story had stopped being mine. It had become ours. But Wild Magnolia wasn't done. That afternoon, Harper forwarded me an email. Subject line: defamation. Notice: Wild Magnolia Media v. Cleo Rivers. I skimmed it. Threats of legal action. demands for me to retract false statements, a deadline of 72 hours before they proceeded with damages. My hands trembled. Can they do this? Harper leaned back, smirking. They can try. But it's bluff. They're panicking. Especially after what I filed this morning. What did you file? An injunction, she said. Freezes their content until the case is reviewed. If a judge grants it, they won't be able to post, profit, or edit another thing. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to relief. Then Harper added, one more thing. The press wants an interview. You can control the narrative, but you have to be careful. They'll twist it if you let them. Inexprendent. I nodded. Then I'll speak the truth myself. The interview happened the next day, in a small studio downtown. Bright lights, lapel mic, host with a smile that looked rehearsed. They asked about the viral story, about Dax, about my fear. But the moment that mattered was when the host leaned in and said, "What do you want to happen now, Cleo?" I took a breath. I don't want revenge anymore. I want accountability. For every creator who's ever been told to let it go, this is for them. And maybe, if we do this right, people will start asking where art really comes from before they click share. When the interview aired, it hit harder than I expected. The clip went viral again. But this time, it wasn't just gossip. It was a movement. Even big creators started weighing in. A Nashville music producer offered to help me restore lost files. A tech YouTuber sent me recovery gear. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like prey. Then came the call. Avery again. Cleo, you should see this. She texted me a link. A dark web listing. Folder for sale. Unreleased wedding footage. 1 terabyte Nashville area. Includes high-profile clients. $5,000. The sample video thumbnail was one of mine. Oh my God, I whispered. He's selling it. Avery's voice shook. And guess who's running the listing? Lydia, not Dax. The screen blurred for a second as the pieces fell into place. Dax was the face. Lydia was the architect. And I'd just kicked the door open on both. I called Harper immediately. She didn't sound surprised. We thought this might happen. It proves the company's intent to profit from stolen content. That's criminal, Cleo. You just won your case before it even went to court. But, if she's desperate enough to sell files, she's desperate enough to run. Harper's voice softened. Then we make sure she has nowhere to run to. That night, I stood on Jessa's balcony, watching the Nashville skyline glow small, steady lights against a bruised sky. I thought about every bride I'd filmed, every slow dance and trembling vow, every moment I'd been trusted to capture love at its purest. That was what Dax and Lydia had tried to steal. Not footage. Faith. But they'd failed. Because the story wasn't about what they took. It was about what I refused to lose. My name, my art, my voice. Still, somewhere deep down, I knew it wasn't over yet. People like Dax didn't vanish quietly. They regrouped. They struck back. By the time I woke the next morning, everything felt heavier. The kind of quiet before a storm that presses down on your lungs. Harper texted first. FBI cyber units involved now. They found evidence of cross-state data theft. Lydia's in deep. Then Ruiz called 20 minutes later. We've got warrants for Wild Magnolia's servers. Keep your phone on. It was finally happening. Justice rolling in with the weight of paperwork and badges. And still, my hands shook. Because I'd learned that justice doesn't erase fear. It just makes you look it in the eye while you keep moving. By noon, word hit the news. Nashville media duo accused of massive copyright theft scheme. Every outlet had it. Photos of Lydia in sunglasses. Old promo shots of Dax. My name in the same headlines, whistleblower filmmaker Cleo Rivers. I thought seeing their faces splashed across TV would feel like victory. Instead, it felt like grief. They had once filmed weddings too. Once been trusted to capture love stories. And somewhere along the way, they forgot what honesty looked like through a lens. That evening, Harper called again. You should know Dax's attorney reached out. Let me guess, I said. He wants to make this go away. Her smile was audible. Close. He wants a meeting. Says he has something you'll want to see. I hesitated. You think it's safe? Not alone, she said. I'll be there. So will Ruiz. We'll meet in a public place. We met the next day at a neutral site, a small conference room at a co-working space downtown. Dax sat across the table. No rings this time. No arrogance. Just a man who looked like he hadn't slept in days. He glanced at the detectives, then at me. You win, he said quietly. I'm done. That's not how this works, Ruiz said. You don't get to bargain. He ignored her and slid a hard drive across the table. Everything, every file, every transaction. Lydia ran it all. I just edited. I folded my arms. You expect sympathy? No, he shook his head. Just, maybe you'll see I wasn't lying about one thing. I did respect your work. I stared at him for a long moment. You could have proved that by not stealing it. He flinched, like the words landed harder than I meant them to. Ruiz took the drive. We'll verify it. If it checks out, it helps your plea deal. Dax leaned back, exhausted. She's already gone, you know. Who? I asked. Lydia. She transferred the company's assets to an offshore account and disappeared last night. Ruiz's jaw tightened. Not for long. That night, I sat on Jess's porch, watching the fireflies blink in the yard, laptop open on my knees. The police had recovered most of my stolen files from Dax's drive. My work, my stories were coming back home. But there was one file I hadn't seen before. A folder labeled, To Cleo. Inside was a short video, just Dax, sitting in an empty editing room. He looked straight into the lens. I know saying sorry doesn't fix it, he said quietly. But I wanted to leave you with this, your original footage. Uncut. The barn wedding. It's yours again. He paused, then added. Don't let people like me make you stop filming. The world needs the way you see things. Then the video ended. I closed the laptop and just breathed. I didn't forgive him, not even close. But for the first time, I believed he understood what he'd broken. When the story finally hit its peak, Wild Magnolia Media was officially dissolved. Lydia Magnus was arrested in Miami 3 weeks later, trying to board a flight under a fake name. Dax took a plea deal, cooperating in exchange for leniency. And me? My calendar overflowed again, not from pity bookings, but from couples who said they wanted the Cleo touch. I didn't post victory videos. I didn't gloat. Instead, I uploaded one last short film, a montage of hands, brides, grooms, grandparents, vendors, artists, all working. Over it, my voice narrated softly, this isn't about revenge. It's about remembering that every frame we create carries a heartbeat. Credit the heart. Always. The clip went viral again, but this time, it didn't feel like chaos. It felt like closure. A year later, Nashville looked different to me. Or maybe I looked different to it. I had a new studio now. Small, sunlit, walls, covered in Polaroids of past weddings. A quiet reminder that stories don't die when people steal them. They just wait to be told again. Jessa still ran her flower shop down the street. Harper became one of my closest friends. Even Avery started freelancing again. She shot second angles for me now. Camera steady, smile, lighter. Sometimes, people still stopped me at gigs. You're Cleo Rivers, right? The videographer who took on Wild Magnolia? I'd smile and nod. Then I'd say, actually, I'm just the videographer who never stopped filming. Because that's the truth. The revenge wasn't the win. The continuing was. The final twist came on an ordinary Tuesday. An email pinged into my inbox with the subject line, Feature Opportunity Netflix Docuseries Inquiry. They wanted to turn my story into an episode not for scandal, but for creative justice. To spotlight how freelancers survive in an industry built on borrowed light. I stared at the email for a long time before replying. Only if you let me tell it my way. From behind the camera, they agreed. And so, a year to the day after everything started, I stood in front of my own lens, mic clipped, eyes steady. The producer asked, if you could say one thing to the people who tried to steal from you, what would it be? I looked straight at the camera. The same way Dax once had, but with none of his lies. Thank you, I said. You reminded me that truth looks best in raw footage, and that no edit, no theft, no lie can change what's real. When the docuseries aired, messages flooded in again. But this time, they weren't pity or outrage. They were gratitude. From creators, couples, even strangers. People who'd felt small, erased, unseen now, felt like they mattered again. That was the real revenge. Turning pain into proof, loss into legacy. And as the closing credits rolled, I smiled at the final frame. My name, centered, properly credited. Directed by Cleo Rivers. Epilogue. The barn where it all began still stands in Franklin. Sometimes I drive out there, park under the same red roof, and let the sunset hit my lens just right. Every frame still feels like a heartbeat. Every story, still, begins with a promise. And mine? Mine ends here not with fire, but with light. Because the best revenge story isn't the one where you destroy the villain. It's the one where you rebuild yourself so beautifully that they no longer belong in your frame.